So following on the back of yesterday's video, we now have some further questions that have been answered on Discord, and the answers are very intriguing. It relates to PvE and PvP balance, trophies, and more. So let's jump in and show you what we got. Now this time I've taken screenshots because it's still a pain in the backside to actually show you Discord, but hopefully this way will be okay. The first question that was answered is about separating PvE and PvP balance. And they say, yes, this is something we've discussed in the past, and we think it's important so we can push for exciting and strong PvE experiences without breaking the balance of PvP. I am remembering the leak, but I think that this is probably just a coincidence. The leak was basically an old thing that wasn't really a leak, it was just some forum guy who thought some obvious things were going to happen, but weirdly they actually put that this was going to be in there. And they say that this is first going to be coming in Season 3. I really find it a little bit weird that they're referring to the expansion as Season 3. Have they been told to sort of keep everything down when it comes to the expansion? Not really sure. Anyway, then they said this will be when we use this new system to replace some of the balance we achieved through the required perks. The required perks being Bane and Ward. We will then build upon this system over time to include more aspects of combat. So basically, I'm not sure how or what it's going to be, but they're creating a system that's going to mean that PvE and PvP are going in separate directions a little bit. And that's going to be the replacement for Bane and Ward. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this will make PvE more interesting. It's obvious that some weapons need to be buffed in PvE, and what's happening is both parties are not happy. Some PvPers aren't happy that some PvE changes affect PvP and vice versa. Well, here it sounds like they really do want to go the extra mile and maybe separate them. That leak that I think was actually mostly a troll suggesting more abilities for PvE, and you know what? That could be what this actually sounds like, but we'll wait and see. The next question is about solo dungeons and how it's hard to find groups for expeditions. Well, they say that there are no plans for solo expeditions at the moment. Those experiences are built for multiple players and designed with supports and tanks. Makes sense. However, we want to make sure that everyone can easily participate in expeditions, so we're making some changes in Season 3 to the difficulty of base expeditions to make them easy for all. Now, they do not mention the raid here, but I sort of feel like they would do this with the raid, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. We want players to be able to experience the fun and story of our expeditions in a low pressure setting. If players want a challenge, they can participate in mutators. If I'm honest, I don't think the normal version of the dungeons are generally that hard, but maybe some people are struggling with them. Like when Tempest came out, some people were struggling with, I can't remember, the snake boss. So I'm okay with this as a change. You have your normal version be sort of quite easy, and then the mutators are difficult. And you know what? They should be difficult because of mechanics, not because of scaling. Maybe that's a hint that that's coming. They also say, as you can see on the roadmap, we want to take expeditions cross-world, like we recently did with Outpost Rush. This should make it easier finding a group to play with. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm probably going to say it multiple times. What we need is to have an auto queue for some of this. Not just the normal expedition, but actually the mutators as well. Just give me a button that just gets me in there quickly. You want to make things accessible, speedy, and not stressful. You still keep the current system so that the speedrunners and the people who really want to sweat it out, they can find like-minded individuals, but give the rest of us who, well, we might not be wanting just easy content, but we want difficult content, but we want it accessible. That's where an auto queue would make sense. Interesting question. I'm a little bit sad there's not much more like solo content coming, like a solo expedition. Scott did say in one of the videos, I can't remember how long ago, that they were going to lean more into solo content. So I'm a little bit surprised by this answer, but okay. The next question is about gear sets. Well, it's not actually about gear sets. It's sort of about having these attributes and the weaponry associated with your gear sets. And they say that we agree that this would be a great addition, but we don't currently have plans for this or timelines for this. So reading the fact that they don't currently have plans, my reading into that is that it's definitely not going to be the expansion. It'll probably be sometime after, probably not 2 years though, just a period of time after. Okay, it'd be nice to see that as an option because I think that would be quite cool. It'd make prep a lot easier for sure. Because there's sometimes that I want to play Sword and Shield whilst I'm medium, sometimes I want to play it while I'm heavy, sometimes I want to play it with my spear and be dex. And each one might have a different weapon skill and it might have different attributes and stuff like that. So yeah, it would be good to have that. Now this one is actually the one that sort of saddens me the most in a little bit. It's about the trophies and the ultimate combat trophy. So they say there are no plans to remove trophies when we remove Ward and Bane. I have been on record. I know some people like this system. I do not. I do not like trophies. I think they're like passive buffs and you basically just pay gold, and I don't think it's that fun. Some people are farming them out, but you know, a lot of people are just spending the gold. That then I think causes a bit of an issue with RMT, but it is what it is. Then they say trophies are a one-time acquisition. Now, acquisition doesn't technically mean, you know, buying it, but a lot of people are just buying it. I would like to see a way where you can acquire it through maybe like a more consistent solo feat or something like that. I just think the current system of trophies is a bit meh. Anyway, they say versus the gear which you constantly update and change. It is true that trophies are better than Ward and Bane on your items, but I still don't think it's great. Likewise, trophies are a separate system, whereas Banes and Wards impacted options and choices on gear and replaced them with required perks. So basically they were needed as far as I can, if I'm reading that correctly. Lastly, I think they are sort of a cool chaser item for that last bit of power. Big disagree. Don't like. Some people do, but I really think they need to get rid of it. And if they're not going to get rid of it in like for Ward and Bane, that kind of thing for the enemies, then we need to get rid of it for crafting. Like, it's so awkward. If you already have them, sure, you're probably happy, but you know, I think for the rest of us, it's not really that great. Personally, I'm just on the basic trophies. I've got the major one for the raid, for the worm, but the rest I just never bothered with. And it's literally, if I spent like 30k gold for each of the enemy types, I'd get like 3% extra damage. I just don't think it's worth it personally. I don't think it's worth going out and buying the trophies if you don't have them right now, by the way. And the reason I don't think it's worth it is that they might make them easier to get. They might do some kind of like catch up, and in that case I would be a bit worried about going out and buying them now. Sure, it's tempting because the prices might come down, but I had a look today on my server. The prices are very high because what actually happens, the more people that are on the server, the more often they're dropping, and therefore, you know, the price is sort of very stable. When there's less people are farming them, and you know, it's all a bit of a faff in that sense. So I wouldn't buy them, I wouldn't sell. I wouldn't do the ultimate combat trophy because you're literally losing value, in my opinion. The fact that you then can't sell the trophy, massive hit. I personally don't think it's worth. Now the next question is, can we get a ready up feature in arena? So basically when everybody's doing the prep, it's about a minute and a half, I think. Well, what if everybody's ready a little bit sooner? Make it just so you can sort of click the tick button and the game can like maybe change its countdown to 5 seconds instead. Yeah, they agree it would be an interesting idea. It would be a good flow. However, they've not even discussed it internally, so it's not happening. And if it does happen, it'll be a while off. And then the next question is about invasion. So they say that now that they've adjusted the invasions, are you happy with it? Are there too many being lost? Are there any other future plans? And they were talking about some hail and heart install what and stuff like that. So first they say our main goals with the invasion changes were to speed up the experience and create a smoother difficulty curve. We were pretty happy with the ending waves, so this has mostly resulted in early waves becoming a bit harder. This has resulted in a dip of win rates. They dipped a bit further than we had anticipated, especially on fresh start. Obviously the people have slightly less good gear there, I guess. And win rates are starting to increase a bit as people are learning the new setups. We'll be keeping an eye on the win rates, and if this trend continue, we may need to take further changes. Now, I haven't done a new invasion, so I don't really want to comment too much. However, the old style invasions were boring. They sped it up a little bit, but they only sped it up by like 10 minutes. So I don't know. I don't really have any feedback on this. I don't necessarily think it's a fun system. I think doing the invasion so regularly, it's always going to be a little bit boring, but there you have it. Now, the next question about Stalwart specifically is that the inherent buff for Stalwart was not added, and that was intentional because overall they felt that the stamina regen was in a good place without it, and they prefer the way that the game plays without it. And I think I do. I think stamina's good. Having like dodge is sort of decent and everything. We all want to play this action kind of game. But when everybody's dodging everywhere because they have a lot of stamina, then the game feels a little bit like chaotic and a little bit of a mess. I personally still think it's actually still too fast in a lot of ways, but they definitely didn't want to bring Stalwart to everybody, so they've ditched it. Now, I don't know what the third part of this question was, but they have no plans for any APIs. I don't know what they were relating to an API for, but as far as I know, New World doesn't really have any APIs. I say that New World database obviously has all the server stats and stuff like that, but I don't know if they're brute forcing that, if there's an API or what have you. Either way, they're not really planning on any further APIs, I would guess, which makes sense. So nothing really sort of massively game-changing news here, but I will say there's a bit of a trend that we're getting expansion hints now. They did refer to the expansion as Season 3 because I think they're coming at the same time, but we're sort of getting more information now about what's coming next, and I think we're going to start seeing a ramp up of information, little bits of drips coming out, and then at some point we're going to get like big expansion news. We're going to get told what it is, what's actually going to be in it fully, and that will be a big time for New World. No matter what, there will be hype in the game, but what's really important is what are they bringing us, what are those big changes, etc, etc. We saw the question on mounts. It was really interesting to learn that probably going to work something like a WoW mount. Very interesting there, and I think we're going to get those little tidbits of information. Nothing here is necessarily crazy. It's interesting how they are actually going to just effectively split PvE and PvP to some extent. It's interesting that they're going to keep the trophies. I mean, I can only just say that I personally don't like them. I don't know what percentage of people like them versus don't. But, you know, for me, it's not really a good system, but there you have it. And the other questions are sort of interesting, nothing necessarily crazy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my YouTube members, and I'm streaming so much more on Twitch now, like it's absolutely crazy. I'm actually streaming 6 days a week, pretty much in the UK daytime. So if you want to come and give me a follow, I would very much appreciate it. And I am looking for members for our company. It's a small company right now because we're literally in between the last patch before an expansion. Actually, there's transmog coming in between that, but never mind. So a lot of people are a little bit like loose ending. They're not really sure what they're doing. This company is going to be here for the expansion, basically. If you're on Barry, if you're in EU, come and join me. There will be lots of fun to had, and some pictures of feet. Well, emotes of feet. I've got an emote on Twitch of a foot. Don't know why, it just happened. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.